Have you ever wondered what it truly takes to become the most feared sniper in history, without modern technology, without high-tech scopes, and without even standing 6 feet tall? Let me take you back to a frozen battlefield, where one small, unassuming man turned the tide of war with nothing more than sheer skill and icy determination. His name? Simo Häyhä, a 5'3", Finnish farmer with a smile that belied the deadly precision behind it. For hundreds of Soviet soldiers, that smile would be the last thing they'd never see. Born in 1905 on a quiet farm in Finland, young Simo's days were filled with simple chores: tilling the earth, tending cattle, and mastering the art of hunting. By 17, he had joined Finland's civil guard, and there, his uncanny marksmanship began to shine. No flashy equipment, no advanced sights, just a bolt-action rifle and instincts honed through years in the wild. He could hit a small target 6 times in 1 minute from 150 meters away, the equivalent of sniping a Happy Meal across 1.5 football fields. Impressive? Absolutely. But this was only the beginning of Simo's legendary path. And here's the twist. Mastery of any craft, be it on the battlefield or in your own well-being, begins with understanding yourself. 1. The White Death. How one man silenced an army. Have you ever wondered how a lone man, armed with nothing but a bolt-action rifle, could strike more fear into an invading army than entire battalions of soldiers? Imagine a vast, silent expanse of snow. The cold bites into your skin. Visibility is poor. And somewhere out there, hidden, watching, you know there is someone whose next shot could be your last. This is not the beginning of a legend. This is the true story of Simo Häyhä, the man history would remember as the White Death. But how did it all begin? The stage was set in late 1939, a time when political paranoia and naked ambition would ignite the brutal conflict known as the Winter War. The Soviet Union, desperate to seize Finnish territory, devised a sinister strategy. Rather than openly declare war, they bombed one of their own border villages and blamed Finland, an act known as a false flag operation. In a world already teetering on the edge of global conflict, this deception gave the Soviets the perfect excuse to invade. Yet Stalin's own paranoia had crippled his forces long before the first shot was fired. In the infamous Great Purge, Stalin had executed or imprisoned many of his brightest military minds, leaving the Red Army poorly led and ill-prepared. As they marched into Finland's frozen wilderness, Soviet soldiers were clad in dark brown uniforms, offering little camouflage against the blinding white snow. They were easy targets. And for Simo Häyhä, an experienced hunter and marksman, this was an opportunity to defend his homeland with unmatched precision. Born and raised on a modest Finnish farm, Simo was no stranger to the hardships of life in the north. Years spent hunting in the forest had honed his instincts to a razor's edge. Now, dressed in pure white camouflage and armed with his trusty Mosin Nagant M2830 rifle, Simo took to the snowy woods. Over the next 98 days, he would achieve the unthinkable. 500 dan, 100 dan, 52. Confirmed kills. A number that still stands as the highest ever recorded by a sniper. But Simo's success was not due to luck or bravado. It was methodical. Each morning before dawn, he would slip into one of his hidden sniper nests, carefully packing down the snow beneath him, then pouring water over it to create a solid, ice-hard surface. This prevented the telltale puff of snow that could expose a sniper's location. Even the simple act of breathing was calculated. Simo would chew snow to cool his breath, masking any visible vapor that might betray his presence. Unlike many snipers, Simo chose not to use a scope. The reasons were practical. Scopes could fog up in the extreme cold or reflect sunlight, creating a deadly glint that would reveal his position. More critically, using a scope required a sniper to slightly raise their head, exposing themselves unnecessarily. Simo trusted his iron sights, guided by instinct and countless hours of practice. He remained invisible, a ghost among the trees, as Soviet soldiers fell one by one, never knowing from where the fatal shot had come. But even the most skilled warrior is not invincible. On March 6, 1940, Simo was struck in the face by an explosive bullet fired by a Soviet rifle. The round shattered his left jaw and left him unconscious, presumed dead by many. Yet fate intervened. He was rescued by his fellow soldiers and underwent multiple surgeries. Incredibly, he regained consciousness on March 13th, the very day the Winter War came to an end. Though Finland was forced to surrender some territory, Simo's legacy was secured. The Finnish government honored him, granting him new land. True to his humble nature, Simo returned to a quiet life of farming, never boasting of his wartime achievements. He lived simply, away from the spotlight, until his peaceful passing in 2002 at the age of 96, having witnessed the collapse of the Soviet Union he once stood against. Simo Häyhä's story is a reminder of what can be achieved through patience, discipline, and clarity of purpose. 2. The silent art of mastery. What the world's deadliest sniper teaches us about focus and discipline. Have you ever stopped to wonder what it truly takes to master yourself so completely that every breath, every heartbeat, every movement is deliberate, purposeful? Out there in the frozen silence beneath endless white skies, a man once lay perfectly still, unseen, unheard, yet utterly in control of life and death with each slow, steady squeeze of a trigger. The path of an elite sniper is not defined by the weapon in his hands, but by the mind behind it. It is not brute force that dominates the field. It is patience, precision, and an unwavering clarity of focus. This is why the story of the man called the White Death still lingers in the imagination. His was not the loud triumph of armies, but the quiet mastery of a single will sharpened against impossible odds. In that bleak winter war, where others faltered or fled, he remained, a ghost within the snow. And it was not instinct alone that guided him. It was discipline, a cultivated patience so profound that time itself seemed to bend around him. He teaches us still that real strength lies in what we master within. And though few of us will ever face such battles, the lesson is universal. In life, in health, in the pursuit of any goal, the path to transformation is not found in noise or speed. It begins in stillness, in knowing your purpose, in taking each breath with intention. And when you do, when patience and focus align, you will find that the impossible begins to yield. 3. Lady Death. The untold legend of the Soviet Union's most feared sniper. Have you ever wondered what it truly takes to become a legend? Not merely in life, but in death, etched forever into the pages of history. Imagine a world in turmoil, a continent engulfed in flames, where every heartbeat might be your last. Now picture a young woman stepping into this inferno, armed first with determination and only later with a rifle, destined to become the deadliest female sniper the world has ever known. This is the story of Lyudmila Pavlichenko, known to the world as Lady Death. A name that sent shivers down the spines of the Nazi invaders. Born in 1916 in what was then the Russian Empire, Lyudmila's early life was far from the battlefield. As a child, she was fiercely competitive, taking part in youth marksmanship contests, not yet realizing these simple skills would one day shape her destiny. But marksmanship alone could not pay the bills, so she found herself laboring in an armaments factory. Feeling underpaid and undervalued, she enrolled in university to study history. Yet even as she pursued academia, the call of the rifle remained strong. She dedicated her free time to honing her sharpshooting abilities through sniping courses offered by the Red Army. This quiet passion would soon become her salvation. In June of 1941, the world changed overnight. Germany invaded the Soviet Union, thrusting millions into the crucible of war. Lyudmila did not hesitate. She volunteered for service. Thanks to her training, she was assigned to the Red Army's 25th Rifle Division, joining the ranks of some 2,000 female snipers. Yet glory was not immediate. In the grim chaos of the early battles, supplies were scarce. She was handed only a single grenade. No rifle, no ammunition. Her true journey began when an injured comrade gave her an old Mosin Nagant rifle, an outdated weapon, but one that would soon become an extension of her will. Her first confirmed kills were no ordinary feat. 2 Nazi officers at over 1,300 feet. From there, her legend grew. Through the siege of Odessa, through the blood-soaked trenches of Sevastopol, Lyudmila's steady hand and unflinching eye made her a nightmare for the enemy. She trained other snipers, rose rapidly in rank, and racked up an astonishing confirmed kill count of 309 enemy soldiers, including 36 Axis snipers, though many believe the true number was far higher. War, however, is not without its personal tragedies. Amidst the carnage, Lyudmila found love, only to lose it instantly to a mortar blast. She too would eventually be struck, wounded by shrapnel to the face. After a month of recovery, rather than returning to combat, she was reassigned as a propagandist for the Soviet Union, now immortalized as Lady Death. She toured the United States and Canada, speaking to inspire Allied forces to intensify their campaigns. But instead of receiving the respect befitting a hardened soldier, she was met with shallow questions from the Western press, focused on her clothing and appearance rather than her extraordinary service. Despite this, Lyudmila remained poised, her presence captivating audiences and world leaders alike. In fact, she became the first Soviet citizen ever received by a U.S. president. After the war, she never again returned to battle, instead dedicating herself to teaching future snipers. Ultimately, she fulfilled her original dream, returning to university and becoming a historian. In 1974, at the age of 58, Lyudmila Pavlichenko passed away from a stroke. Yet her legend endures, etched not only in Soviet history, but in the annals of the world's deadliest warriors. To this day, Lady Death remains a symbol of resilience, precision, and unyielding courage in the face of unimaginable odds. 4. Francis Pegahmagabow, the ghost of no man's land. What kind of man would willingly step into the deadliest place on earth, time and time again, just to save the lives of others? To walk a path where every breath could be his last, where bullets whisper past with fatal intent, yet to emerge not just unbroken, but legendary. This is the story of Francis Pegahmagabow, the most effective sniper of the First World War, whose courage transcended the horrors of battle, and whose legacy echoes far beyond the trenches. Born into hardship in 1891, Within the lands of the Ojibwa tribe in Ontario, Canada, Francis began life shrouded in tragedy, losing his parents to disease and poverty at a young age. Yet the trials of his youth forged a spirit of resilience. Raised in the traditions of his people, he mastered the arts of hunting, tracking, and moving unseen through the forests, skills that would later prove invaluable on blood-soaked European soil. As war erupted across Europe in 1914, Canada, still tethered to British rule, was drawn into the maelstrom. Thousands were called to fight. Among them stood Francis, volunteering not out of obligation, but out of a fierce sense of duty. Despite the prejudices of the time, which saw native soldiers as second class, Francis was accepted into the Canadian Expeditionary Force at just 23 years old. Sent across the Atlantic for training, his natural prowess with a rifle quickly earned him the role of scout and sniper. His baptism by fire came at the Second Battle of Ypres in 1915, a nightmarish engagement where German forces unleashed poison gas for the first time. Amid the suffocating clouds of chlorine, with the air itself turned into a weapon, Francis not only survived, but distinguished himself, running messages through the chaos, his movements swift and fearless. Throughout the grinding years of trench warfare, his legend only grew. Equipped with the notoriously temperamental Canadian Ross rifle, Francis turned this unreliable tool into an instrument of precision. His sharp eyes and steady hands found their mark again and again, culminating in an astounding 378 confirmed kills, a record unmatched in the war. Yet numbers alone do not tell the story. It was his unwavering bravery in no man's land that etched his name into the annals of history. This hellish strip of earth between opposing trenches was a wasteland of mud, barbed wire, and death. Few dared cross it. Fewer returned. But Francis moved through it as if guided by unseen forces, weaving through gunfire to scavenge ammunition from the fallen, resupplying his comrades and ensuring they could fight another day. The weight of the bullets he carried, both literal and symbolic, took a toll on his body, injuring his back under the strain of countless missions. He was not merely a sniper, he was a lifeline. His reconnaissance runs mapped enemy positions, his reports saving countless Allied lives. In battle after battle, including the infamous slaughter at the Somme, he proved unstoppable, capturing over 300 enemy soldiers in addition to his kill count. Rising to the rank of corporal, Francis returned home the most decorated Indigenous soldier of the war, garlanded with medals, yet burdened with unseen wounds. Canada, however, did not greet him as a hero. Despite his service, he faced systemic discrimination, poverty, and neglect, treated as a second-class citizen in the very nation he had fought to defend. Refusing to be silenced, Francis turned his battle-hardened resolve toward activism, becoming a tireless advocate for native rights. Though haunted by the scars of war, he spent the rest of his life fighting for justice until his death in 1952 at the age of 61. Today, his memory is enshrined in his hometown of Parry Sound, where a bronze statue stands, a silent sentinel honoring the spirit of a man who, against impossible odds, became a ghost in no man's land and a legend for all time. 5. Carlos Hathcock, the white feather sniper of Vietnam. What drives a man to seek out the most dangerous job on the battlefield? One where patience, precision, and the ability to remain utterly invisible are the only things that stand between life and death. Such was the path of Carlos Hathcock, a man whose name would one day inspire awe and fear across both sides of the Vietnam War. Born in 1942 in Little Rock, Arkansas, Hathcock's destiny seemed etched into him from childhood. Long before donning the Marine uniform, young Carlos would roam the woods with his father's old rifle, hunting for food and honing the skills that would later make him a legend. His father, a veteran of World War II, filled the boy's imagination with tales of valor and sacrifice, planting the seed of a dream. One day, Carlos would be a United States Marine. On his 17th birthday in 1959, without hesitation, Hathcock enlisted. His natural shooting abilities soon set him apart. During basic training, he shattered records on the rifle range, including an almost perfect 248 out of 250 on a master's level course, a score that remained unbeaten even after the range was retired. Recognized as one of the Corps' finest marksmen, Hathcock earned the coveted title of Distinguished Marksman by 1965. But it was in 1966, amidst the dense jungles of Vietnam, that Hathcock's legend was forged in blood and shadow. During his 2 tours, he achieved 93 confirmed kills, though the true number is believed to exceed 300, a discrepancy due to the stringent confirmation process of the era. Every confirmed kill required verification not only by his spotter, but also a third-party officer, a logistical challenge in the chaotic conditions of guerrilla warfare. His skills and uncanny ability to stalk unseen earned him a deadly reputation among enemy forces. In fact, the Viet Cong placed a substantial bounty on the man they called White Feather, a nickname born from the simple white feather he wore in his boonie hat, an almost mocking symbol of his fearlessness. Time and again, enemy snipers sought to claim the bounty, but none succeeded. One of Hathcock's most remarkable feats came not with his trusty Winchester Model 70 rifle, but with a .50 caliber Browning machine gun. Spotting an enemy combatant at an extraordinary distance, 2,500 yards, he used the heavy weapon to score what was then the longest recorded sniper kill, a shot that defied belief. Another encounter became the stuff of cinematic legend. While scanning a distant ridge, Hathcock noticed a telltale glint, light reflecting off an enemy sniper's scope. With a single calculated shot, he struck true. Upon retrieving the body, it was discovered that his bullet had traveled through the enemy's scope and directly through the a shot so perfect, it would later be immortalized in films like Saving Private Ryan. But not all of Hathcock's heroism came from behind the scope. During a harrowing mission, his transport vehicle struck an anti-tank mine. Despite being severely burned, Hathcock summoned superhuman strength, rescuing 7 fellow Marines from the inferno before collapsing. Though his body bore the scars of war, his face, arms, and legs burned, his spirit remained unbroken. Forced to retire from active combat, Hathcock turned his focus to shaping the next generation of warriors. He helped establish the Marine Corps Scout Sniper School, where he poured his knowledge and experience into training future snipers. Even as his health declined from multiple sclerosis, a disease that would claim his life in 1999 at the age of 56, Hathcock remained a revered figure, a man whose calm resolve, unmatched skill, and unwavering dedication left an indelible mark on military history. His story reminds us that true courage often lies not in the will to fight, but in the will to endure, to rise again, and to teach others to stand tall in the face of overwhelming odds. If you found this story as inspiring as I did, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more tales of extraordinary bravery. Your support helps keep these legends alive,